What is going on, Pacer Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice Pacers. Guys, the Indiana Pacers finally did it. Their first playoff series win in a decade. It feels like a long time coming, but the Indiana Pacers finally take care of business at home in Game 6 against the Milwaukee Bucks. 120 to 98 in a game where really, the Pacers controlled the majority of this game, except for a given point, maybe in the second quarter and early in the first quarter. But in that second half, especially, the Indiana Pacers just controlled this game from the get-go. Cody, we talk about even before going into the game, we were wondering if we were going to see either Dame or Giannis in this game, because both of those guys had a chance based off of what reports were going into it. But again, Giannis, through all 6 games, we never saw once. And Dame Lillard, who was out the last 2 games, finally made an appearance in this one, did end up becoming their highest scorer in this game. But, it really wasn't an overall effective night shooting for Damian Lillard. And, that was definitely something that we were looking at going into this game.
Yeah, and I looked for how would the Pacers respond after, I would say, their worst performance of the season. Like one of those games where like, nothing's going right. Rick Carlisle looks like a moron. They have guys that just can't do anything. It's like players aren't executing, coaches aren't, coaching properly, and the lineups were horrendous again. And so you're just wondering, like, how are you going to respond after a frankly embarrassing performance, a blowout loss, to, like we talked about, an extremely beat up Milwaukee Bucks team. And so that resembled to me, Derek, what we've seen the Pacers do this season, where they just completely have games where they crap the bed offensively and they can't do anything. And so that was my biggest question mark, was like, how are the Pacers going to respond? Again, they were back at home. So you were kind of wondering, okay, with the home crowd behind them, how are they going to respond here in game number 6, up 3-2, and everything like that. So you were just like, you got to take care of business tonight. And the Pacers did that. You mentioned it pretty much from the start. A little bit right ahead there where people were getting a little bit like nervous, like, oh boy, is what happened a couple of nights ago going to continue to leak over into this game? But really from there, the Pacers took care of business. And when you kind of look at the scoring breakdown, Derek, the Pacers pretty much outscored. They did outscore the Bucks in every single quarter. And especially felt like later on in the game, especially in that fourth quarter, the Pacers were able to kind of cruise to victory there and, kind of extend their lead a little bit more. And so, yeah, definitely a great response from the Pacers. But, let's be honest, you shouldn't have been in this place in the first place. You shouldn't have been having to play in a game 6. Honestly. So, but regardless of that, the Pacers did respond well off of a very, very poor performance in Milwaukee a couple nights ago. And, at the end of the day, Derek, you won the series. I know, there's a lot of things going in your favor with the injuries, but you know what, man? Like we said, like, it's hard to win. I don't care if you're playing with your superstars or if you're not. Like, it's hard to win in the NBA, in pro sports, at any kind, at any level. It's hard to win, and especially win a playoff series, because, there still were some players on the Bucks, albeit there weren't these, the Giannis's or the Dames for a couple games. But, guys like Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis, there were still a few guys that were doing damage in this series. So hats off to the Pacers for taking care of business here in front of the home crowd. And, just not letting the game get out of hand, especially in some of those stretches where the Bucks started to gain a little bit momentum. Pacers were able to weather that and really respond about every time, and really not even give the Bucks really much of a chance in this game. So definitely credit where it's due. The Pacers did a great job, much better performance all the way around, and just a much better offensive performance, certainly, in this game. So yeah, man, you know what? As frustrating as this series has been at times, at the end of the day, the Pacers made it work, and they won this series, and that's really all that mattered. You mentioned last time in 2014, Derek, I was a senior in high school the last time the Indiana Pacers won a playoff series, right? So definitely a long time coming for this franchise, for this city, and couldn't be happier for them, man. And they're going to have a tough series number 2 here coming up between who, and again, we don't know at this point, but we're probably thinking Knicks because right now, as we're recording this, they're doing some pretty good things right now against the 76ers, but you never know. Knicks or 76ers, we'll see on that. But yeah, man, as it stands right now, the series shouldn't have gone to 6 games, but you know what? You took care of business when it mattered, and that's all you can ask.
Yep. So, I mean, it's such a special moment for Indiana Pacers fans because I've grown up knowing a lot about how Indiana fans are when it comes to their sports, and whether that's football or especially basketball, especially when it comes to the Pacers or college ball. It's just there's something special about that sort of thing in Indiana. Like it doesn't get much bigger than that in other than in Indiana, and including in Indianapolis where it's such a big thing where it's a franchise that's been their fans have been desperate to find something to hold on to for the first time in over a decade. And Indy fans finally have something over a decade later, Cody, to finally start grasping onto and being like, this is a team that can actually compete with some of the best in the NBA for the future. And that's really what it all comes down to. And that's why this means so much for Pacers fans and for this organization and for everybody involved. And how fitting it is that the Indiana Pacers finished this game in Indiana, being in front of the home crowd, taking a chance to actually be able to win this game on their own home court. I'll tell you what, honestly, Cody, I think that it was actually a good thing Dame Lillard played in this game because what's been the memo of the last couple games for the Indiana Pacers, right? Dame Lillard goes out in game 4 and in game 5. You barely win in game 4 without Dame Lillard on the court. In game 5, you lose it to the Bucks at their place. And then Dame Lillard comes back, and I just don't think it's no coincidence that you end up beating this team by 20 for that exact reason. And I think a lot of it has to do, Cody, with, Dame Lillard can get you 30, but he stunts the movement of this offense for the Milwaukee Bucks. The problem you have is if it doesn't go through Dame, if it goes through Dame, it has to go through Dame. And if Dame is not on, then you're going to lose. Because if Dame Lillard's not hot, then the rest of the offense just can't catch up. Because all these other guys that could be getting you more efficiency with their buckets, they're not getting those. Because Lillard has to take his 25 shots a game in order to, be able to put up the numbers that he does. Whereas the rest of these guys could be shooting more frequently and being able to actually score more efficiently. Look, the Milwaukee Bucks shot 42% from the floor. They shot 42%. They shot 26% from 3. And it's crazy because more than about 20% of the shots taken by the Bucks tonight were from Damian Lillard. Actually, I think it probably is higher. It's probably like 25 to 30% of the shots taken were from Damian Lillard. And if he's not hitting 50% or more from the field, then it doesn't matter what the rest of your team does. They don't have enough offensively to keep up. And I think that's what cost the Bucks this game is, Dame Lillard got you 28, but he shot less than 50% from the floor in every aspect except free throw shooting. So really, it didn't really help your team that much.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. Well, I mean, you already talked about it a little bit, but I mean, when you look at some of the stats team wise, I mean, the Indiana Pacers, I mean, out shooting really in a large degree to the Milwaukee Bucks. Pacers shooting 54%, Milwaukee only 42, and Pacers from the 3-point line. While they weren't great tonight, they didn't have the greatest performance from three. Only 33%. They still were better than the Milwaukee Bucks, who only shot 26% in this game. Not to mention the Pacers actually made their free throws tonight, which was definitely a good thing. It's about time. We've had games where the Pacers just are terrible at free throws, and it just makes no sense. So great to see them do that. I mean, Derek, you pulled out the stat in the Pacers win in game number 4, the assists, 33 assists in this game. I mean, the Pacers continue when they have these games where they're passing the basketball around and they're playing team, offense, like they get these open looks and their offense just runs so much more smooth when it is, all these assists and all this stuff. So definitely great there from the Pacers and their offense. And, rebounds, they've been generally about the same in this series. The Pacers just edge out the Bucks by 4 in this game. But I mean, Derek, I think at the end of the day, when you look at it, the real big thing for the Pacers was just the fact that they shot a lot better than the Bucks in this game, and they made a few more free throws. And just overall, it was just much more of an efficient night for them. And it felt like they were able to just do a lot. And I know we're going to talk about the Pacers bench because this was definitely a major part of this, was the Pacers' ability to get a couple guys off the bench to play quality minutes and to be very efficient doing so. But, I mean, when you look at just some of the stats here, Derek, for the team, I mean, you look at, the Milwaukee Bucks, and, I know they had, obviously, Lillard, you mentioned 28 points. Lopez and Portis both have 20. But other than that, I mean, Middleton 14, Beverly only 6 points in this game. And then there's really nobody off the bench that's making up for that, Derek. I mean, you got Beasley with 2, Connaughton with 5, and that's about it. Like, there wasn't a ton of guys off the bench, and especially with Beasley. He had 23 minutes in this game, and he only had 2 points and 2 rebounds and 1 assist in this game. So just wasn't a quality minutes for him. I mean, he was 1 of 5 shooting, Derek, so he attempted 5 of them and missed 4. So it was an efficient night for him. 0 for 2 from beyond the arc as well. But then when you flip it over to the Pacers bench, I mean, okay, there wasn't this guy that, went crazy in terms of nobody to the point of point wise as Dame Lillard in this game, but it was kind of an even spread, Derek, pretty much through the 5 starters and then really 2 guys off the bench that contributed in major ways in this game. I mean, you got to talk about, of course, well, let's start with the bench because we always talk about the starters first.
Yeah.
But I think the 2 guys off the bench, Derek, were a big reason why the Pacers offensively were so efficient in this game. And especially one guy we got to highlight first, TJ McConnell, man, was on another level tonight. I mean, my goodness, in only 23 minutes, Derek, he had 20 points and 9 assists, 2 rebounds. He was 7 of 9 shooting and 2 for 2 beyond the arc. So, Derek, not only was this guy shooting the ball extremely efficiently in this game, he was also being a really incredible distributor of the basketball in this game. And just he also set, I mean, with those points, he set a career high in the playoffs. Him and the other guy we'll talk about, Obi Toppin, here in a minute. Both these guys were just spectacular tonight off the bench for the Pacers and just played some really quality minutes, to be honest with you. So give me your thoughts here on McConnell first and then Obi Toppin's game as well. These 2 guys off the bench that were key and pivotal in this game for Indiana.
One of McConnell's best game, probably McConnell's best game of the entire season. And it happened to be the game that sent Indiana to the second round of the playoffs. I mean, what a better way. There is not a better way that TJ McConnell could have went into this game. Not a single way better, because very rarely do we see TJ McConnell put up that many points in a game, let alone in a playoff game. Cody, this whole series, TJ McConnell's just been bad. I mean, outside of maybe the first game, like, he was bad all series. I mean, we're talking about him after game 4 and game 5. We're like, bro, should you even be playing? Like, you're that bad to the point where you were looking like one of the biggest detriments to the entire team because you were playing that bad. And then to come into game 6 and know that that was what was being said about you, and to come in there and just be the ultimate teammate and to be the ultimate player, maybe the best player on the entire floor tonight, and to be the sixth man off the freaking bench. I mean, that's insane. Like you said, 20 points, 9 assists, 2 rebounds, 4 steals in this game, Cody. I mean, he did a little bit of everything. Like you said, he shot, what was it, 78% from the floor tonight and made both his threes. McConnell does not shoot threes, and he doesn't shoot them well. And so to him to have to make both his 3 attempts tonight was phenomenal. He is the energizer bunny of this unit. When he's on the court, he gives you everything. And, I mean, love him or hate him, the dude gives everything. And that's a great thing to have in your second unit, because you don't get a lot of guys in the second unit that can be that guy and be that facilitator while also getting his own buckets. I mean, it rubbed off a lot, Cody, not just from TJ McConnell, but it felt like the pace of the game was all dictated by the Pacers. I mean, they were playing full court press defense all game, and the Bucks didn't have an answer for it. And that led to a bunch of opportunities for the Indiana Pacers to take advantage and take some of those opportunities where McConnell was able to take advantage. Halliburton was able to take advantage. All of those specific things. And then you go to Obi Toppin, 21 points, leading scorer for the night, may I remind you. Again, McConnell and Toppin off the bench scored more points than all the starters, which is incredible. That's incredible. That doesn't happen. There's not a single team out there that has 2 guys off the bench, Cody, that can come in and will, and in any given point, ever be able to outscore every starter on the team. It doesn't happen like that. So that's what's great about the Indiana Pacers is you see these guys that can come off, and when they get hot, they get going. And Obi Toppin, just as impactful tonight as TJ McConnell. Did not shoot the ball quite as well as McConnell did, but every point and every single thing that Obi Toppin did was just as pivotal to making sure that he was able to get things going. He was playing great defense. He was physical. He was making his shots when it counted. 21 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists, and a block. Cody, Obi Toppin and TJ McConnell both had more than double the points of the entire Milwaukee bench combined. And Milwaukee played 8 different players off the bench tonight. And they both scored more than double what the Milwaukee bench did, which is exactly why you won this game, because you had 2 guys off the bench that even the starters didn't. None of the starters had anything amazing offensively today. But, I mean, when you get a collective unit like that, a collective performance of Obi Toppin and McConnell, that can take you places. And that's exactly why the Indiana Pacers won this game, because we had the bench, we had the 2 best guys on the floor, and they just happened to be the guys that were on the bench today.
Absolutely. Like you mentioned, it is such a luxury to have guys that can come off the bench and do what they did tonight. So definitely a great thing for Indiana to have 2 guys in McConnell and Toppin. And you hope, obviously, like with Toppin, that he'll be back next year, because he's been such an incredible guy off the bench for Indiana. So moving on to some of the starters, though, I mean, like I said, there wasn't really like one guy from the starting 5 that like went crazy tonight, Derek. It was all pretty evenly spread. But of the starters, Pascal Siakam had the most points. He had 19 points. Pretty efficient night, 9 to 15 shooting tonight for him. He did have the best plus minus of any of the starters, a plus 19 tonight. And it got a little bit, I felt like there were some moments with Pascal where you're like, oh boy, he's got to wake up a little bit. But really, it felt like, Derek, as the game went on, Pascal Siakam became just more and more comfortable as the game progressed and, started being efficient, started getting some more good shots going. And, just again, kind of a nice bounce back game for him. Not that he was playing poorly in the last couple games, but, he started off so strong in this series, and then he kind of tailed off a little bit recently in terms of just the scoring. So 19 points, definitely great to see Pascal Siakam. I mean, we've talked about it before, Derek, but he's been such a great addition to this Indiana team and can knock down some of those clutch shots when you need them. So definitely great night for Pascal, and love that he just continues to be efficient and a really good score for Indiana and just steady. I mean, you just feel him, Derek, when he shoots it. Most of the time it's going to go through. He's just such a fluid shooter, and he's so trustworthy out there. So he led the Indiana tonight, like I mentioned, 19.7 rebounds, 4 assists in this game. And then, of course, you got to talk about Tyrese Halliburton. Derek, pretty good game for Tyrese overall. Pretty evenly rounded. I mean, a double-double for him in 32 minutes, 17 points, 6 rebounds, 10 assists, 7 of 16 shooting. So not the greatest night shooting for Tyrese Halliburton, but he had a couple really good shots in this game, and obviously continues to be that elite distributor that he is. So great to see Tyrese just continuing to put in the work there and getting where he needed to. And, you haven't really needed Tyrese, just because of how evenly spread it's been in some of these victories. You haven't really needed Tyrese to be a guy that goes out there and, does what Dame Lillard does, scores 30 points, attempts 20 plus shots. He only attempted in this game 16 field goals. So that was a little bit higher. He hasn't needed to be the guy that's going out there taking every single shot. I mean, he hasn't had to be that guy because, I mean, you look, Siakam had 15, right? And Toppin had 15. So he wasn't like a wide margin ahead of everybody else when it came to the shot attempts, which I think is definitely great. Still want to see him get more efficient, especially from the 3-point line. No question about that. But still, in terms of the overall game, it was a good performance from Tyrese. And, he was right there with, the plus minus with a plus 12 in this game. And then, of course, you throw it over to Aaron Nesmith in this game, 15 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. He was 5 of 10 shooting in this game, plus 15 overall. And then Andrew Nembhard, he had 14 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. He was actually one of the better shooter tonights from the starters. He attempted 9 field goals. He made 6 of those. So pretty efficient night for him all the way around. And then Miles Turner, ironically enough, Derek, his worst performance, I think, in terms of pretty much everything. I mean, he didn't have as many minutes. Obi Toppin actually, had more minutes in this game than Miles Turner did, and just wasn't a great game for him. I mean, he only attempted 6 shots in this game, and he only made and connected from 1, which is we're not used to for Miles. He's been so efficient pretty much all year, but only finished the game with 5 points. He did have 5 rebounds and an assist in this game, but the plus minus was still pretty good at plus 12. So, I mean, just an off night for Miles shooting. But again, you didn't need Miles to go do what he's done because you were up by so much in this game. So what are your thoughts on some of these starters and just how they played overall?
Well, and I mean, Carlisle, to his credit, I think just kind of went with the hot hand when it came to Obi Toppin down there. I mean, when you looked at Brook Lopez had the fewest amount of minutes as well, Cody, of his starting 5. And if Miles Turner wasn't out there, Brook Lopez wasn't out there much more either. So you didn't really need Miles Turner to be out there for 35 plus minutes tonight. You didn't need to, because if Brook Lopez was only on the court for 30 minutes, then they were going small ball, which was kind of a good thing for the Pacers because then they could space it out. And Obi Toppin was able to take advantage of that, and that was a great thing. And that probably also helped TJ McConnell late in those games too, because when Brook Lopez wasn't in there keeping him out of the paint, McConnell was able to facilitate inside both by himself and with his teammates as well. So, them going small ball also helped the Indiana Pacers in that regard. But going back to the starters, as you said, Siakam, a solid performance tonight from Siakam. 19 points, shooting 60% from the floor, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, and a steal. That's a good performance. That's what you expect from Siakam. Naismith, I mean, listen, Cody, I know it doesn't look like much at all, but I applaud Naismith for being able to put on that kind of performance. remember, Naismith is not a guy we expect to get 20 points a game. This is a guy that you'd be happy if he got a dozen any given night because this guy's not a shooter. He's not much of a shooter, at least for the majority of the season he hasn't been. But yeah, he didn't shoot fantastic, but he shot 50%. And Cody, in comparison to what he shot all series, that's actually really good. He actually shot the ball relatively well in this game. So 15 points on 50% shooting, I will take that from Aaron Naismith. I will gladly take that from him. And of course, with the great defense that he has. I mean, he was definitely playing some great defense out there, and that's exactly what you wanted out of Naismith. Nembhard as well. I mean, Nembhard, that dude, again, shooting the ball really well. Same story as Naismith, was the guy that was the enforcer on the defense. Just like the entirety of the Pacers team was. They were enforcers, regardless if some of these guys weren't scoring offensively as well. I mean, they were enforcing themselves defensively, and it made it very difficult for the Milwaukee Bucks to ever get anything established. Now, as far as Halliburton goes, listen, I love Halliburton. I think this guy is going to be a fantastic player for the Indiana Pacers going forward. No question. Halliburton, for the love of holy God, stop shooting 30-footers. Stop it. You are not Dame Lillard. You are not Kevin Durant. You are not Steph Curry. Stop trying to shoot 30-foot threes. It's not worth it. It's not. He keeps doing it, Cody, and we wonder why he's shooting 20% from three. Because he sucks from 30 feet. I don't know what it is. Like, ever since he came back from that injury, I don't know if his shooting form has been permanently altered because of the injury, and he's just not. I mean, he hasn't really been that great all series shooting the ball from deep because he's kind of been dealing with those back spasms, and he's never been 100% coming back from that lower body injury earlier this year. He just needs to stop shooting from beyond the arc so much. Honestly, I know that's part of his game, but he needs to stop. He really does. He went 5 of 6 from inside the arc today. Like, just imagine if he took 3 or 4 less shots from 3-point range and took a couple more of those on the inside. He'd be getting those 20 points per game, shooting over 50%, and still shooting 30-40% from three rather than, shooting 20% because he shoots 10 threes a game, but 8 of those 10 are from 30 plus. Like, dude, you got to start taking your shots better, honestly, because at some point it's going to come back to haunt the Pacers offense. The Pacers offense is so great even when Halliburton struggles, which is such a fantastic thing. But that's going to be one of the ultimate reasons why the Pacers are going to end up losing to somebody at some point, because Halliburton is not efficient on the offense, at least not right now. So, Halliburton, I love you. I love what you do for the Indiana Pacers. Everyone loves you. You're going to be a great player for this team going forward, and I love everything you do for this offense already. But for the love of holy God, stop shooting 30-footers. That's all I ask. All right? Take a couple more shots on the interior. You might be surprised at how much better offensively you find yourself. So all I hope is that though over the next 4 days, Cody, while the Pacers are resting up, that, he gets those back spasms under control and that he's going to be close to 100% when we go into this next series against whoever we play.
Yeah, I hope so. And I just think the shot selection sometimes isn't the wisest from Halliburton, where it's like you just haven't been efficient. And I know some guys like Halliburton obviously think they can shoot their way out of it, but sometimes at the end of the day, it's going to come back to haunt you, like you said. And I just think there needs to be a little bit more thought and care into when you take those shots, what are good shots? What are some where you're like, I mean, that's hurting the team. That's hurting the offense. So I think he's just got to figure that out, and hopefully he does here moving forward because, yeah, you're right. I mean, he is very efficient when he actually takes good shots, but sometimes he just kind of wings it up, it seems like, and
Yeah.
and just has those games. And it just recently, it feels like he's been doing that a lot where you're just like, come on, man, like you're efficient everywhere else. Why are you taking some of these wild shots, So just a little bit better there when it comes to shot efficiency. And, a team like New York, presumably that you're going to play. I mean, you can't afford to have these, 20% shooting from 3 nights. Like you can't afford to have that if you're Tyrese Halliburton. He's got to be efficient. He's got to be, doing what he does, in terms of, distributing the ball, but he's also got to be efficient shooting the ball because, I mean, let's be honest, the Bucks out of all the playoff teams, they were the team that you could probably afford to do that. You can't afford to do that against the New York Knicks, or else you're going to find yourself really quickly down in this series. So definitely got to figure that out for Tyrese, and hopefully he does here for the Indiana Pacers. But again, Pacers take care of business here. They advance for the first time since 2014 into round number 2. We shall see if the Indiana Pacers are able to take care of business against whoever wins it, presumably the New York Knicks. That'll be a fun series. Really looking forward to that. But guys, let us know your thoughts here on the Indiana Pacers winning game number 6, taking the series 4-2. Let us know your thoughts there. That'll do it for this one, guys. Thank you so much. And as always, go Pacers.